Hi, everybody. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Jason Patel from Transizion. You may recall that we did an interview with Jason earlier this year, and I'm really excited to talk with him about college application season this year and even into next year. Of course, it has been a crazy year with the COVID pandemic. Typically, a college search for your right college would take lots of steps and visits and getting to know the college. And this year, a lot of those options are just different. So that's what we'll be talking about. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jason.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan of what you guys do at Magoosh, and I'm excited for the interview.
Wonderful. So I guess to get started, what does a college application cycle typically look like when students are researching the right colleges for them? And how is it different this year?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's important to note is that when everything is up in the air with COVID, it's important to take your time. And for students who are juniors right now and watching this video, definitely start early. It's always a good thing to start early and get it done. So when you're a junior and it's the fall right now, it's October 26th when we're taking this video. What you want to do is make sure that you have at least some colleges on your shortlist that you want to go for, and maybe have a shortlist of about perhaps 25 to 20 schools. And we'll obviously cut that down, but what you want to do right now is have a list of schools that you're still interested in. And what you'll do over the next couple of months is whittle that list down and ensure that you're doing your research so that you're picking the right colleges. Now, things are a little different this year. I mean, overall, some of the deadlines are going to remain the same as they were years previous, but things are going to be different with the test, especially. So when it comes to test optional, a lot of schools are going that way. So if you don't have an SAT score, you don't have the ability to take the SAT. A lot of students in California have gotten their SATs and ACTs canceled because of the wildfires and because of COVID. What's ended up happening is a lot of students don't have the standardized tests to submit. So all things considered, I wouldn't worry too much about the test. What I do is on a week-to-week basis, if you're a junior, check out where the test centers are, when the test schedule is, and see if there are any cancellations. Always good to prepare, but colleges understand that things are up in the air right now. Otherwise, what we want to do here is ensure that we're getting everything done early. So, Jessica, when you asked what an actual cycle or timeline should look like, if you're a junior in January, what I want you to do is start your Common App essay. Common App essays come out. The new versions of them they get published in late January or early February, which means that you could start them then, spend a couple months on them, and then by the spring or summer, finish up that Common App essay. That's a 650-word essay, and it's very large. So if you get that out of the way, you're going to take care of a lot of your work. Once that essay is done, toward the end of the spring or beginning of the summer, finish up your college list. So whittle down your short list and come up with an official list. Then, of course, spend some time on the college essay, relax a little bit, go over the personal statement. And in August, what I want you to do is begin your supplemental essays. The schools make official or supplemental essays on around August 1st, some do August 15th, some do August 30th. But the point is that you want to start early. You don't want to start your supplemental essays in the fall, which is when all the deadlines are. Start early, get them done so that your early decision and early action essays are completed by September. And then your December essays are completed by October. That gives you a lot of time. It'll keep you from procrastinating. And of course, it'll make sure you're submitting a high quality product.
Great. So it sounds like one key piece of advice is to understand the deadlines and to start early. It sounds like the Common App essay opens up really early, so you can just get in there, get a few drafts, get your thoughts down on paper. That's great advice. So you mentioned a short list of around 25 colleges. Some students might be wondering, even to get to that list, what should I be looking at? How do I choose the right college for me? There are so many options. How do I get to that list?
Absolutely. You want to think about affordability, your grades, and how strong a student you are, and of course, whether the school is the right fit for you. Now, note I didn't say prestige. I don't think prestige is a good thing kids should be looking at. It'll negatively affect their mental health. And besides, prestige is overrated when it comes to looking at schools. What matters is, are you a good fit? Can you afford to go? And can you get in? So let's break those things down. Affordability. Check how much tuition is. Check whether the school is a public or private school. And see how much of the bill your parents or you could pay on their own or with loans. And then see if you're comfortable with all of those options. Of course, if there's a public school and it's in-state, the tuition bill will be significantly smaller. And then figure that out. Can you afford to go to that school? Maybe you need to go to community college for 2 years, which is super cheap and a great option, and then go to your 4-year school afterward for your junior and senior years. The point is you want to figure out whether the finances match up with your goals. Either way, community college is a great option, and you should think about going there for 2 years and then going to a 4-year school for the last 2 years. And of course, think about grants and scholarships. Bark up those trees and try to find out where the money is going to come from and how you're going to pay for school. Once the affordability piece is addressed, you want to look at how strong a student you are. So compare your standardized test scores, if you have them, with the median grades that the college accepts for test scores. And then if you're in the middle, that's considered a target school. If you're at the end of it, that's considered a reach school. And if you're at the beginning of it, it's considered a safety school. My point is that based on your GPA, your extracurriculars, how decorated your background is, and how much of a passionate, hardworking student you are, if you're really able to figure out what kind of schools you're going to get into or what kind of schools are the best use of your time, you'll realize that if you're not a Harvard kid, don't apply to Harvard. If you're not a Stanford kid, don't apply to Stanford. But if you're not interested in going to a state school, then don't apply to a Rutgers or a University of Maryland. If you're not interested in going to a warm climate school, don't apply to the University of Miami. The point is you want to figure out what kind of student you are, what your preferences are, and then whittle that list down. And finally, Jessica, it comes down to fit and location. Location is so important. If you go to a school that's a good career fit for you, but you hate your time there, you might as well light your money on fire. It's a waste of money. But if you go to a college and you enjoy your time there, you build a network and make memories that you'll think about for the rest of your life, then it's money well spent. You'll also naturally build a network and you'll want to do well there because that sense of sincerity and that sense of enjoyment will be present. And if you really enjoy your time at a school, you will be ensuring that you get a great value for the price that you're paying to attend college. Now, the location part is also important because it's not just about climate, like warm weather or cold weather. Ask yourself, do I want to go to a large school or a small school? A suburban school, a rural school, or a city school? Do I want to go to a place that's close to a city or just completely far from it? Do I want to feel like a big fish in a small pond or vice versa? My point is, Jessica, is that you want to ask these questions starting sophomore year, ideally, but definitely ask them the end of your junior year to figure out what that college shortlist is. And once you know your preferences there, you'll be able to go down and break that number down to maybe 7 to 15 schools that you want to apply to.
Great. Thank you for that overview. You're bringing back past memories of a Midwestern girl seeking warm weather for college. So let's talk a little bit more about college fit and what that means to one specific pool of students. So first generation college students. Are there things you would keep in mind that are potentially kind of on top of what you said for a student who is, first in the family to go to college?
Absolutely. And I think the set of criteria that a first generation college student looks at is much different than a student whose entire family has gone to college. So again, you want to look at things like affordability because many first generation college students are cash strapped. If you don't have a source of income or a large source of income to call upon to pay for your college bills, you might need to take a part-time job. You might need to work an on-campus job. You might need to ensure that you're saving up before you actually go to school. Now, these are things you can write about in your application, but you want to know about these things before you actually set foot on campus or receive that first tuition bill. You also want to think about if your English is strong enough and whether you're going to need any sort of help. Now, there are writing centers all across schools, all across the country. But if you are a true first generation student from another country and you don't speak English very well, or you want to get better at it, think about the English speaking resources you might have at those schools and how they help fellow students who are also in who are following your path. And then, of course, Jessica, you want to look at the ability and the diversity of the school and its ability to welcome students from different populations. A lot of times, if you're the only person from your background to have gone to a certain school, it can be really lonely. It could affect your mental health and it could force you to have a really awful time at the college. But if you're around birds, if you're around people who are like you, birds of a feather, you'll enjoy yourself a lot more, and it'll be easier to integrate into the rest of the school. If you're around a couple of people who are like you, it's easier to go into a group, as a group, to a party or to a tailgate or any sort of event, and talk to a new group of people, just because you have that confidence and you have that sense of that sense of and that ability to mesh with another group. So yeah, just there are a couple of things that you want to pay attention to, like affordability and fit when you're a first generation college student. It's certainly harder than being a multi-generation college student, but when you're a first generation college student, you're going to make a lot of sacrifice to go to school, but it's always worth it. You're setting your family up for success in the future.
Great. It sounds like community is just a huge part of the college experience. And this brings me back to how we kind of started the interview. So in a normal year, the way that students might get to know colleges better is go there, go on a campus tour, go to the information sessions, meet some of the current college students, maybe go to some club meetings of special groups for students who are from first generation families or students from underrepresented groups. And this year we have COVID, right? So a lot of these colleges are not even operating in person. It makes this all the more challenging to assess things like community. Do you have any tips for students this year, as long as the COVID pandemic is around, unfortunately? What can we do to get that better sense of college fit and community?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just first start off by saying that my heart goes out to all the families out there affected by COVID. I know my family certainly was. And if you're a student watching this, tough times right now, but things always get better. But Jessica, to your point about how do we figure out whether a college is a good fit, even though we can't visit the campus, there are some things that a student can do to ensure that the college is a good idea or a good fit for them. Number one, surf social media. Now, this is one of the few times I'll actually endorse social media, but go on Reddit, go on Instagram, go on Facebook. You can go on TikTok even, and basically search for subreddits, search for students who use hashtags for those schools, and figure out what the students are saying about those schools. The beauty of this is that you get to see firsthand what students say and really get an unfiltered view of what their perspectives are. And that's always a good thing. Now, with social media, you might find a lot more negativity than positivity. So be wise to that. At the same time, you can get a super undistilled view of what students look at and how they feel about attending their campus. What kind of parties there might be, what kind of social life there is, what people say about certain legends or cliches on campus. It's always a fun thing to do. What you can also do is take a virtual campus tour. A lot of companies now do that. They also offer just plain videos on the campus and helping you take a tour through it. That's always a good idea. And it's obviously not going to be as optimized as an in-person tour. At the same time, what you can do is have a bunch of perspectives on that college, look up a bunch of interviews, and see basically what are the consistent things the students and faculty are saying about that school. And then finally, and this is my favorite one, is read up on what professors, what alumni, and what other prominent people related to that school are saying and doing in the world right now. You can get a good sense of what the school is like when you learn more about what actual students and professors and faculty have said and done to bolster or to hurt the reputation of the school. Because many of the time you'll be working with faculty and you'll become an alumnus one day. And you want to ensure that when you're at that school, it's the right fit for you. I mean, all things considered, what I'm trying to say, Jessica, is if you're able to go straight to the source, unfiltered view of what people say about the school, it's going to make your life a lot easier. You're going to get an unbiased, unfiltered view of what the reputation of the school is, what the school has to offer, and good and bad things about the school. The sooner you do that, the better. Don't fall in love with the school just because the brochure or the front page of the website looks great. Fall in love with the school because it's a good fit for you and because you've done your research.
Great. I mean, it sounds like with social media and it's kind of a direct view in behind the scenes into these schools. And Students might even have more virtual resources this year than in a normal year. I'm wondering, with social media, Reddit, Facebook, especially these unfiltered views, what are some of the pitfalls for students who might be really relying on these sources more than in a normal year?
Yeah, I think it goes without saying that many times social media provides a platform for negativity and for warping people's sense of reality. And let me start off by saying I don't think you should spend too much time on social media. I'm not one of those people who thinks that social media is good for the soul. I actually don't think it is. But it can have its uses if used appropriately. So when you ask me about pitfalls, what I think a student should realize is that, one, there's a lot of negativity on there. Two, don't compare someone else's highlight reel to your regular life. And then, of course, number three, take everything with a grain of salt and do your research upon the things that you find out about. So if you hear from a Reddit post, or you see from a Reddit post or a TikTok video that a certain school has this, don't take it word for word that it's true. Do some of your research, check forums, and really put in that work so that you can find out whether that's something true about the school, or whether that accusation or whether that legend or what have you has merit. I'm just really wary of people on the internet just saying things about other people or other institutions that frankly just might not be true. Anyone can do it. The price of entry on the internet is quite low. So take everything with a grain of salt. And, most of all, the internet's got so many things. Don't let it get to your head. You have to ensure that you understand you're a human being, you're a person with your own flaws and your own beauties. And as you grow up day by day, you're going to get better as a person. So don't feel bad about anything and don't feel scared about it. Just do your research, put in the work, and you'll be okay.
Thank you for the advice. I think it applies to not just schools, but everything on the internet. Do your research before believing what's written there and before you. So when we talk about college fit and students are thinking about all these different things, so geography and affordability, their own interests, and what they want to study, are there red flags that you've seen come up in the past? What are some of these red flags that students might want to watch out for that would say, oh, yeah, this is not the right school for you?
Yeah, the biggest red flag is prestige, right? If you're saying you want to go to a school just because it has a nice name, it does not mean it's going to be a good fit for you. That's the most important part. And if there are any parents watching this, don't push your kids to apply to schools just because your peers, other parents and teachers in the community might feel like a school is great because it has a name brand reputation. That's not healthy for your child. It's not a good way to spend anyone's money, really. The other red flag I would say is that if you go into the process without brainstorming what you want out of a school, that's particularly dangerous. You don't want to go to a school like Syracuse, which is an outstanding school, only to realize your first semester there that you don't like being in the cold. You don't want to go to a school like Rutgers or University of Maryland, again, two amazing schools, and then realize you wanted to go to a smaller school. You don't want to go to a school like NYU or the George Washington University, only to realize you wanted to go to a suburban school or a rural school with a traditional campus. You really want to think about what you want out of a school, who you are, what type of campus you want to be on, and what type of people you want to meet. The sooner you do that research in high school, and the sooner you find out more about yourself, the better off you're going to be. So, Jessica, the objective red flag there is prestige. Don't pick a school based on prestige. But anything really can be a red flag if you don't do your research. If you go in underprepared, you're setting yourself up for disaster. But if you go in with a little bit of research, a lot of legwork, and ensuring that you know the right questions to ask before you pay that tuition bill or create that college shortlist, the better off you're going to be. Ask those questions early, even if they're tough. And once you come to those conclusions, you'll be able to better select what your college list should be.
Great. Thank you for that great advice. On an ending note, so you've talked a lot about doing your research and a lot about being curious and open. I'm wondering if you have any tips for students on how to get to that introspection needed to understand oneself and, what do I actually want? How do I get myself there?
Jessica, that is $1 million question. It is such an incredible question that you asked. And I think, to be clear, for kids out there who are struggling, adults struggle with that. Human beings struggle with that. That this is a human thing that people do and or people don't do. And asking yourself questions and being introspective about what you're looking for out of life, be it for college or for a job or for love, are all things that you will encounter as a human being. It doesn't stop after high school. I think the most important thing that is being able to ask the tough questions and confronting with the sense of humility things you might not like about yourself or things that you are uneasy about, and really just laying it all out there. As I mentioned, you don't want to compare someone else's highlight reel to your regular life. And what I mean by that is, if you have things you don't like about yourself, things that you're uneasy about, things you're scared about with respect to the college process, ask those questions, confront those issues head on, and really do your research. The way you cure the anxiety and depression stemming from all the uncertainty is to really put in the work, find out more about the problem, and educate yourself on how to best address the problem, how to best get past it, or at the very least, educate yourself on how to deal with it. I think many times people suffer more than they need to because they choose ignorance over knowing. And once they know, they realize what they were afraid of was never really that big a deal. The same thing goes for colleges, Jessica. If you're afraid of going to a big school, or you don't know whether you want to go to a school with a great sports team or maybe a middling academic program, figure it out. Do the research at the school. The more you know, the more you realize that you're not really afraid of the problem. You're just afraid of all the things you made up in your mind. So when it comes down to it, be humble in the way you treat yourself, but don't go too hard on yourself. And of course, be tough with those questions. Confront those questions head on. And when you need to ask those difficult questions or really get those difficult answers out of you, just do it. If you solve it now and you do it now, it'll pay dividends for you down the road, and you'll make sure that you'll invest in your future and do the right thing for yourself.
Wonderful advice for anyone of any age, but especially high school students and for parents as well. Thank you so much, Jason. And definitely check out Transizion if you get the chance, college guidance for the 21st century. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan of Magoosh, big fan of your guys' work, and keep up all the great work.